Thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A with the game-changing, life-changing Ted Lasso. I literally don't have time to list all the accomplishments of this show and its cast, so I'm just going to introduce them and get us started. I want to start with, first of all, Ted Lasso himself, Jason Sudeikis. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful final season. This is an audience of your fellow actors and performers.
Nice.
And they are not necessarily directors, despite all having cameras out. And I always actually just sort of like to know, what got you in this business? Was there a particular performance or an actor or a piece of art that inspired you to get into acting? So what's up with you?
Oh, golly.
Well, you're the boss. We can start at the other end.
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right, let's start with James.
It was Jason Sudeikis. Actually, no, it was a performance in Amadeus. It was F. Murray Abraham as Salieri. I thought I want to do something like that one day with my life.
Have you ever played Salieri?
Not yet.
That's the right answer.
It would be amazing.
I agree.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much.
Billy, you probably weren't even born when Amadeus came out.
No. But Jimmy Lance, he genuinely was an inspiration to me because he's in I'm Alan Partridge, and
right.
you were in the Travel Tavern with Steve Coogan, and honestly, I'm not lying. I watched it and I was like, that's a cool man, and I want to do what he does. And he's
I'm loving tonight, by the way. This is
And now you do what he does.
Yeah.
Which is have great hair.
That's right. Also the pinstripes as well. I copy him now with everything. Yesterday I was wearing pinstripes, now you're wearing today. Yeah. Anything else? Any more? Anything else?
Let's move on.
Kola, for you?
Yeah, so I used to, I didn't plan on being an actor. I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch. Yeah, see? That was my life. Yeah, a joke. And then I did that for a bit, and then I got an opportunity to do a play. And then basically I auditioned to play myself, because obviously the writer lived with me and she wrote a script, and I didn't get the part. Yeah, so imagine that disappointment. Yeah. Then there was another opportunity, and then I did it, and then I got, did it, and it was at the Royal Court in London, and then I got signed to an agent, and then I was kind of plugged away until I realised, maybe I should do this for a living.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Every actor in here is so happy for you, but also kind of resents you. Cristo, for you?
So film that inspired me to...
A film or a person or a performance?
Well, I mean, with my profession, with my background in sports, my biggest inspiration is Rocky. I love the story and sport, and it's both inspiring, the story itself, but also Sylvester Stallone, his story.
Yeah.
And then the other day we met John Travolta, so thank you very much.
Wait, he got to meet John Travolta. I was doing a Q&A with John Travolta, and because Cristo paid attention to me when I said hey, I know you, he got to meet John Travolta, and the best part was Alfonso Cuarón vouched for him. He's like, oh, that guy's cool, you should meet him.
But the only reason why I mentioned now John Travolta, and again, I thank you so much, because when I was studying communication and I had no idea what I was doing, the first student film I did, I love the 70s, I love vintage. My dream is to do maybe a film or something in that era, the 70s. And then I had to tell, my first student film was the Saturday Night Fever situation. And I told him that, and then he just looked at me and was like, thank you, and hugged me and put his forehead against my forehead, and I was like, oh God. And then we looked at each other, thank you. So that's
You're being kind of modest. He talked to you for like 10 minutes, and you should look up the photo of them together because you have never seen so much joy
He's so
in
cool.
one photo on two faces.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. So those for me.
I'm so sorry, Jeremy. You have to follow that.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is, I have a weird one, of course. It's the Sea Scouts. I went to see the Sea Scouts when I was 8, and it was just really when the, I knew some other lads in it, when the curtain opened, like, poof, like this, and they were all there going, "We're riding along on the Cristo." I was just like, oh my God. What's that? What is that? And that was it, really. Which is really weird. I know.
Yeah.
Nick, for you?
It's sort of similarly odd, but it's a bit different. Say again? Oh, sorry, Hannah. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. Torval and Dean, for me, who are British ice skaters. They were sort of big in the 80s, but then did a comeback in the sort of mid-90s, I think it was. I just think, just to be that dedicated, to be able to sort of dance on, I'm being genuinely very serious. I honestly mean it. And I went to see them. They then did like a tour off the back of doing their. It's so boring, this.
Is this why you're on skates in your live show?
Is this why I miss you when you're not on a ballet? You really?
Anyway, I mean that's basically it. But I did see them live like 4 times. I met Jane Torval. I mean they're like in their 70s now.
They're still epic, my
They're
friend.
incredible. Honestly, just YouTube them. Their dances are exquisite, and what they did for the art of ice dancing is extraordinary. Which is why I'm a professional ice dancer.
They don't still ice dance, do they? Because you said look them up there.
Yes, they do.
Don't they have like a weekly like
Dancing on Ice?
yes, ice skating with the stars competition
Dancing
show.
on Ice.
Yeah.
They used to judge that, yeah. And but I don't think
Still
they're
do.
still skating, are they?
Yes, they are. Because everyone has to do the bolero at the end of the whole competition. Call yourself
Everyone.
a Jane Torval and Christopher Team fan.
Wow. I've never heard their first names before.
You're welcome, Jane and Christopher. They should all
I can't watch that stuff because my wife likes to watch it just so that somebody can fall over because she finds it hilarious. It's too tense and she screams with laughter and I run out the room going, "Oh fuck, I can't bear it now."
It's an icy car crash. It's brilliant.
Brett, for you?
I think it was Pete's Dragon. The Disney film.
So it was the dragon? Or?
It was the cartoon dragon. I thought that guy is deep, you know. Dragon's got fucking emotion and shit, and like, you know, Pete's sort of, in theory, not there. You know, one of them's not there, one of them is there. When they're both there, it's magic. That's what I wanted on that. You know, Pete or the dragon, okay.
You know, I was totally going to joke and say Oscar the Grouch, but that's actually even better.
Yeah. Listen, I'll take Oscar. But I'd be lying if the truth is it started with Elliot the dragon, Pete's dragon.
Wait, that's his name?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have a childhood. Brendan, for you?
Growing up in Chicago, I had the good fortune in like 8th grade, I think, to go on a field trip to Second City. And I mean, maybe because I was a fairly unhappy kid up to that point, but like nothing, like I'd seen movies that I liked, but nothing, you know, invited me the way live improv and sketch did. Like it really kind of blew the doors off me. And in particular, there was a clear, the whole cast was amazing, but there was a clear best performer that night, a talented young woman named Bonnie Hunt, who I've been a massive fan of ever since, and not just because we share an initial and a name.
That is the main reason.
It's important. It lines up the symmetry, you know, if we ever hook up, you know, we won't have to change the monogram on the towel.
Get busted.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, you know, seeing Second City that was the first time I was like, this. Hold on, those are people. Maybe it's because it was live too. Like those are people. Those are real people. Like I could maybe someday. And here we
How
go.
old do you think you were when you first saw improv?
Well, let's see. I skipped a grade.
Humble bragging.
So
Yeah.
I think I was 11 or 12 when I saw it.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
by like 3 years later, we'd started an improv group at our high school, and I'm sure we were terrible, but we were getting reps.
Yeah. Wait, you were getting reps? You mean?
Reps.
Repetitions.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like agents and managers.
This is a room where that would be the default room.
You're not really. We did a lot of commercials for Salmon's Village and other Chicago area.
Hannah, for you?
Mine was undoubtedly Carol Burnett
Mm.
and Tim Curry and Bernadette Peters in Easy Street, and I met Carol Burnett last night.
Where do you meet Tim Curry? No, I'm kidding.
So now that's working with Tim Curry on Spamalot, lost my mind. Then meeting Carol last night, and the freakiest thing was they told me that she was in the green room at the Emmys. I'm getting emotional to talk about it. And I said, no, I don't think I can meet her because it's freaking me out, made my head go fuzzy. And as I walked in, her rep came forward and went, Carol really wants to meet you. And I was like, and Carol went, I love your work. And I literally just lost my mind. And she said about my Christmas special, and you know when you can hear a voice going, and you can't really hear what they're saying. If you'll be able to see it. I'm literally like on her. And I said, do you I didn't know what to call her, ma'am. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I went, do you still, forgive my ignorance, do you still sing? Because I said when I was pitching to Apple about my Christmas special, and I said, I want it to be like a meeting of Dean Martin and Carol Burnett. And if I do another one, is there any way you would sing with me? And she went, I'll start practicing now. And I was like,
Apple, are you listening?
yeah.
They are on all of our phones. Amazon, Meta, they're all listening. NSA.
That's amazing.
More than anyone over here.
And Jason, for you?
Who cares?
Inspire.
Yeah, that's your out.
Yeah.
No, I mean the irony of last night, not irony, but the hat that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
The groups that were there. My Uncle George played Norm Peterson on television's Cheers. His name George Wendt, and that's my mom's younger brothers. We got 5 other brothers and sisters who are equally interesting, although one's passed, but still interesting. And I mean that show came out in 1982, so I would have been 7. Well, I'm rewatching again the series for the first time through, and even as I watch it now, I'm like, oh, this had such a formative. Like this is in my spine, and there's so many little things, yes, intentional things that we did on our show as little touches and homages to it, but there are many other things that are just spilled out otherwise. And so it would have been watching my Uncle George sitting there, and it's not so much watching your uncle, or a family member on this thing, on this show, because the first season, nobody watched, anything like that. It was came in 75th place or something famously, and then it went on to become one of the greatest shows of all time, at least in my opinion. And it was the way, and this is something that I would have given him a shout out last night had any of us had the opportunity, would have been just the way he maintained his humanity, and both as a family man, as a guy who people loved, called him anytime he walked in a room, call him by the wrong name, and he handled it with such grace.
Yeah.
Never had to pay for a beer since 1983, but he's just a good guy, and his wife, my Aunt Bernadette, both having done Second City, it really cleared the path for me, within my family, to be like, oh, this is something you can maybe do. Drop out of college and do and make a living at, and still stay normal, stay grounded. So, I don't think nepotism is always about the doors that they open for you on the earth plane, but certainly for the doors that, people that get to do this type of job and the way they conduct themselves from the inside, maybe like, oh, it's possible. So yeah, so I would definitely think it was Cheers. But even though when I grew up, I wanted to be Sam Malone and Harry Anderson, you know, like Harry the Hat. Those
Oh,
are
I love
characters
Harry
like,
the Hat.
he's an incredible character, you know. Much
I copied all his tricks.
He's, oh, no,
Yeah, the one where you put the hat on the
of
drink
course,
and
yeah,
get people to
absolutely.
move it
Season
forward.
1, yeah.
Yeah.
Cold open,
Season
yeah.
1, episode
Yeah.
6.
There you go. Pick a con, any con. I watched that thing. I must have saw that at the same time, and I was like, I want to be like one of these guys growing up. And while I haven't quite made it, I at least aspire to be Sam Malone or Harry the Hat. Yeah.
And forgive me for not knowing, but have you and George ever worked together?
We did. My first movie was a Roger Corman production called Alien Avengers 2, and I played a German foreign exchange student named Gunther, which I had to audition for. I didn't think I'd get it. I flew myself out there. They needed someone that looked younger than 18, but not 18, so they didn't have to pay for a tutor or anything like that, because it's a like low budget movie. And yeah, the writer was a guy named Michael James McDonald, not the singer, but the fellow that played like Stuart on Mad TV. Yeah, right. Michael, whom I've never met actually. And then the director was this fella Dave Payne. And I got hired to do that, and that was my first thing. I made that was how I got my SAG card at made like $3,000 and blew a lot of it on my sister Kristen's high school graduation gift, which was just a bunch of clothes from Banana Republic, which was not her style at all. but you know, nice pastels.
Yeah, you blew all your money on a gift for your sister?
The majority of it, yeah. $3,000 when you're 18 and from Kansas City, and it's 1997. Like I was like, oh great, I don't have to work for years. Also because I was living in my parents' basement, so you know that you don't have to do rent and borrow my parents' car. So yeah, I didn't have much overhead.
Oh man, that's amazing. Well, again, congratulations on a beautiful farewell season, particularly for all these characters who've grown and they've changed so much over the course of the series. And there's just so many great moments and scenes in this final season. I would love to break down some of them. And I want to start with James and Billy because we learned so much about Trent and Colin this season, you know, as Colin's sexuality came to light. Can you talk about how you sort of learned about the storyline and what it meant to you, you know, as actors, but also as humans to play like such a timely and powerful storyline?
Yeah, I mean, being in the show from season 1 and seeing, you know, where the storylines were going for all of these characters and, you know, Tahib and Cristo and everyone and Phil, it was something I sort of kind of acknowledged and thought, oh, this could be a storyline in a show like this, because, you know, we're, you know, tackling lots of other things, so, you know, why not? You know, it's an important thing to tell. So I didn't know that it was going to be, you know, I was going to be doing that in series 3. But I definitely thought that, you know, it kind of needed to be done, and I'm so grateful and so thankful that me and working with Jimmy, working with Kola, and also Sam as well. Got to give it to Sam who played Michael. We had a really good time on it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, talking from my point of view as Trent, it was very exciting to play that role, because where we find him in season 3, he's probably the last person you would think would be able to kind of hold that space for Colin. You know, when you first meet Trent in season 1, and people aren't always who they, you know, might seem to be, and it was just a very beautiful experience, really, to play those moments, wasn't it? Yeah.
When were you sort of given a heads up about this storyline, or do you get the scripts and sort of learn week to week?
Yeah, I mean, what do we do? What do we do? Do we get them weekly?
Yeah, what do we do?
What do we do? What happens on that show?
Do we get scripts?
When you're ready.
When you need the words to fall out of your face in front of the camera.
But it was in season 2 there was a line that Keely says. Well, we're talking about dating apps, and Colin says, "Oh, like Grindr." You know, and you know, that for me was like, oh, hang on a minute, you know, it would be silly for me as an actor to not, you know, pick that and be like, okay, that's interesting. Sort of sat on it for a little bit, and then had conversations with Brendan. I was just kind of, you know, and then once I found out he was going to therapy as well, you know, that was another thing. I was like, what's he talking about in there? I want to know. So that was also, with the Grindr line, and then but I mean, it just happened, and series 3 was when I found out.
Kola, actually, one of my favorite moments of the entire series is when I was so mad at your character for a lot of the season until I realized he comes to Colin after he's sort of shut him out, but he doesn't shut him out for the reason we think. And we have this scene where you realize he's not judging Colin, he's confused if there was something about himself that made Colin not feel comfortable coming to him. Can you talk about like learning about Isaac's journey and what it was like to do those scenes, especially with Billy?
I was learning kind of the same time as Isaac. Isaac was learning,
Oh, wow.
you know, really slowly. But basically, yeah. So I knew I was gonna go down pretty much, and I knew I had to stay off Twitter that week. Otherwise, you know, people would be like, "How dare you do that?"
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm like, all right, calm down. But yeah, it was good to see a different side and see different side with Isaac and Colin, you know, and see them out of that, you know, boiling cauldron that is a dressing room, you know, and see them in their, you know, normal outfits and see their friendship and see how they, you know, act with each other.
Yeah, it was an interesting week, like as you said, you know, because obviously lots of streaming services you can just binge it and go straight on to the next episode. But that felt like a real old
Was
school.
that on purpose? You know? Yeah. Was that? Yeah, Jason.
The gap between Isaac's reaction and Isaac revealing that he's not upset at Colin, he's upset with himself.
Yeah, no, that was
Definitely intentional.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, see, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, trying to do some, you know, narrative cliffhangers, you know, hoping and assuming folks would care and pay attention. You know, some do, some don't, but you know.
But you always knew why Isaac was reacting the way
I knew Isaac in and out, you know. So I knew he wasn't that sort of fella. So I, you know, the way it played out the way I liked it, and I'm really grateful that he wasn't, because then I would have been on the street and people would have been like, dude, come here. You know, that sort of thing that was happening to me in the supermarket in that week.
Really? Oh no. Well, I mean, like, they were too busy being mad at Nick, so you were I want to apologize on behalf of everyone to your face, and it's a testament to what a great actor you are, that we were so angry. But was it tough for you?
Was it tough?
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's thrilling as well. I'd never really got to act sort of anything that was, I guess, a little bit challenging in that kind of way. I mean, you know, social media did do its thing, and
Really thrilling to get death threats and stuff, isn't it?
I didn't get death threats. But I think, you know, there was a lot of, you know, there were people saying that they'd slap me off, you know, if they saw me in the street and stuff.
People really understand the ethos of the show.
Yeah, they were really taking the message home. But no, it was. I remember, Jason, you were so sweet. I remember just before the end of season 2, you sent me a really nice text. You probably don't remember, but you sent me a really nice text saying, "I know social media is doing its thing, but you know, you're all right," and just checking in. And it was really sweet. And it's basically what Ted would have done to Nick, so it's nice. But yeah, it was fine. And now I just sort of getting my own back on social media. Like sort of just teasing season 4 stuff.
One of my favorite, when my kids watch the show, just so they know where Dad is, you know, and so they understand language, you know, and especially Brett, whom my son Otis calls King of the F. When Nate turns towards the camera at the end of season 2 and he's got the gray hair and he comes forward and he's walking during that badass Run the Jewels song, Otis and Daisy. Otis, who had just bawled his eyes out when Nate was yelling at Ted, going, "Why is he yelling at you?" And I'm sitting here watching this through this little, at this point, 8-year-old boy's eyes, who are nowhere much prettier than mine. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then when Nate comes to the camera and it cuts to black, Otis just looks at the screen and he just looks at me and goes, "What?" And I was like, oh man, then we got him. You know, if an 8-year-old understands betrayal.
Otis sent me so many threats.
I know, yeah. You know, Apple sent him all this stuff, you know.
Oh, well, I think it would also be hard for you as an actor because you were kind of isolated from this cast you'd been such a vital part of, you know, and you still were a vital part of, but season 3.
In season 3, completely, and I like, you know, not to get sort of pretentious about it, but you kind of try and use all that kind of isolation to your advantage a little bit because, you know, prior to then I've been in the locker room, you know, even when Nate had beef with everyone, he was sort of still present, and you could, but yeah, you know, and I was interacting with people who I'd not interacted with on screen, like Anthony and Eddie, who plays Jade, and sort of just trying to sort of use all that unfamiliarity really to one's advantage, I guess.
Yeah. And by the way, you had great scene partners in your things, but I'm sure it was hard to watch everyone, or maybe you weren't watching everyone else because you weren't on set at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we, like, you know, I sort of popped onto shoot, I just wasn't allowed in there.
Yeah.
We're all very method.
Yeah.
Cristo, Danny Rojas might be the only, like, the positivity of this character is so joyous and wonderful. As someone who began with a career in football and came to acting and then found success as an actor playing a footballer, what has this journey been like?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a full circle. It's life teaching me that everything happens for a reason, and I think that's one of the important messages in the show. That sometimes I remember back then. Of course, I recovered from my injuries, but the life of an athlete is so short. Everything, and not only the injuries, but also my mindset and the way I was thinking back in those days, and I had to change things about myself. Knowing that probably if I could have kept going with the football career, I would have ended in Honduras or in another country playing football, soccer, and happy too. But the fact that I decided to try new things and now I'm fulfilling dreams as a football soccer player because we're in FIFA. And like that's the dream when you are a kid and you want to play football soccer, that's the dream.
Wow.
Forget about anything else, just play FIFA and play yourself. We can tell you, we
8 hours a day.
Yes. So crazy dreams that we're fulfilling, or I'm fulfilling as football soccer player, and yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes we don't understand why certain things happen, but there's a purpose, whether you believe in God or the universe or Mother Nature or whoever you believe. There's a bigger purpose for me. It's with God, and I'm grateful with my family and friends that we're always there to help me find new passions.
And yeah. In addition to you being a professional player, I know Kola and Brendan really know their football. I assume a lot of you do, but do you all sort of serve as like the on-set experts? Like, do you tell them when something's wrong or off? They're all saying yes.
He knows so many football stats and statistics. We used to play that game. Remember that game we played, and it would take weeks.
Brendan is an encyclopedia, yes, of football.
I enjoy my trivia.
Oh my God! Did you see this man on Jeopardy?
Yeah. I have the receipts. It's just that I got into soccer pretty late. Like not till I moved to Amsterdam in 1999, and I felt like I'd been lied to when I discovered soccer, because when here it's like it's dumb, it's divey, it's slow, it's low scoring, and I was like, it's the most dramatic thing since opera. What are you talking about? And so I just went like full ketchup mode, and I went full sponge, and that basically has never stopped. And so like by the time we got to the writers' room, You know, because I'm always like, among Americans, I'm always like definitely like your friend who knows a bunch about soccer. But then, you know, here comes Brett in the writers' room. Like, oh boy, okay, well now we have a Brit here. We have Phoebe, who probably is not as into soccer as Brett is. And it was it's one of those weird like confidence moments when Brett kept deferring to me on soccer stuff.
Because you know, I know like Premier League, you know the world. You've watched every football.
Yeah, and like
Not
the
just
history
one
of
team,
it.
all the teams.
Albanian League, Division 2.
Well, I'm rusty on my Albanian.
It's award season. That's one. But Brendan, you know, very similar to like Bill Lawrence, the first couple seasons was like what happens? What do sitcoms normally do? Okay, great. And then like with Brendan, it was always with every bit of football stuff. It was like, well, what normally happens here? And then we'd always sort of talk about what does that matter in Kansas? And just sort of, and we just mean like, you know, regular folks. And we would twiddle the knobs on those things. But so many of the stories are rooted in the stories of the characters are like, you know, things that have happened 3-4 times, but maybe at different, you know, points in history or different countries, different leagues, and they become a little bit like templates or archetypes. And yeah, without even having to have an internet.
Wow.
But Brendan, you know, being that special sauce in that regard for you know, football specific.
The internet is also very helpful.
It gives us a good second opinion, but we were usually good. We could have done without it.
Well, we're talking about these characters growing and changing, and Jeremy, I waited until he took a drink of water to call on you. I'm sorry.
You know, he could sense it coming.
In many ways, we didn't want Higgins to change too much because from the beginning, he's always been profoundly decent. And it was such a joy learning more about him as the show unfolded. I personally think it's really challenging to embody goodness and make it entertaining. What was sort of your key to understanding Higgins and making us fall in love with him?
Well, I think that sort of, he went up a notch with the humanity, and this is all because of the drip down effect that Ted has. When Rebecca comes to his house, and they have a sort of proper heart-to-heart, and you see him sort of, both of the characters drop their guard a bit, and I think from that point on, that kind of crazy mentoring thing started to come in, and he got more, you know, there was still fun and there's humanity. But I think something that I'm really grateful for, and I didn't sort of think about this until, you know, we'd wrapped on season 3, was that that a lot of actors, a lot of male actors in their 60s in sitcoms are quite often, you know, the butt of jokes, or they're quite grotesque, unsexy dickheads. Then everybody can go, get out, Tim, God, you know, and that didn't quite, you know, there's a bit of that with Higgins, but I really appreciate that, you know, that didn't happen on Ted Lasso.
And you're the sexy one.
And also, while I'm here, I also appreciate the fact that, you know, jazz gets a bad rep. And, you know, it's like, oh God, he likes jazz. You know, but it was given some dignity, I think, in the first season. Yeah.
And did you know that was coming? Brendan, I could be wrong, but I think you were mainly responsible for kind of, I don't know if you were purposely trying to mine information about Jeremy and learned about the jazz, or it was just something that came up and you worked it in.
Well, as Jason has said before, like we, you know, from Second City world, like want to try to like find out like what are the secret talents of your group and like see if you can work those into things. So we worked in the bass playing in season 1, and then from there, improv still comes into play because like then that's like, you know, an offer. That's like a seed. Like, can that come out later? And you know, the Amsterdam episode, you know, every script is a group effort in the room, but like I certainly was trying to steer to some of my Amsterdam experience, and part of my Amsterdam experience was this like flush of joy of having these like powerful performance experiences like on stage, and like the way for some reason in Amsterdam, it felt really, really fulfilling. And on top of that, there was a hell of a jazz club down the street called the Alto, which we tried to honor with that scene. So yeah, that's the journey of Jeremy in that, or of Higgins in that episode. Is like unexpectedly, if you're just following your bliss, it might follow you back harder.
I love that. Speaking of the Amsterdam episode, Brett, Roy Kent pretty much has chemistry with everyone. You know, you put him in a scene with Juno Temple, it's great. I don't know if I anticipated you and Phil Dunster having so much chemistry. I mean, did that catch you off guard, especially in that episode? No, you knew?
No, when we first met, it was hot. But I've told this story before. You know, we're like magic, like soulmates. You know this? Do you know this story?
I don't know if I do. I know you did a TV show called Soulmates.
So before we did Ted Lasso, I wrote, one of the first plays I wrote was a play called Love Remains, and it was me and a woman, and it was about a breakup, basically. And I took it to the Edinburgh Festival, and then years later, a guy wrote to me and he said, I saw your play, I'd love to direct it for my university or something, would you mind? I said, no, I'd love that. So he put the play on and he said, come and see it. I went to see the play. The guy who played me was Phil Dunster. I didn't know it then, or we said hello. 5 years later, I turned up day one of Ted Lasso and Phil goes, we've met, I played you. Do you know that? It's fucking magic, isn't it?
No idea.
And I remember watching him in the play and I was like, oh, he's a better looking, better acting.
I've said this before, but I assume you know how to ride a bicycle. And I think you do such a good job of pretending not to know how to ride a bicycle, which is really good acting, by the way.
Thank you so much. I learned from Kermit.
How not to ride, or?
He's struggling. Yeah.
Hannah, you've been very open and generous with how this show and this role has changed your life. I'm curious, what's it like? Do you often go back and think to, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago when you first heard about the audition? I don't even know what you were told about Rebecca Welton. If you had sides.
Barely anything at all, actually. When I think back to how little I knew about it, I'm not entirely sure I would have gone in for it, because I had no idea about anything to do with Rupert, any of that toxicity, any of the trauma that had been brought into her life because of him, nothing at all about the sassy relationship and the goddaughter, and most importantly for me, kind of in the middle of season 1, I had quietly for myself decided that she had always wanted to have a child, but I hadn't even discussed it with Jason. I remember saying, did I say that? Did I not say that? And he was like, well, it's always been something that they'd had in mind and was coming my way. And it just freaked me out how many times. I mean, it got to the point at one stage where I said to you, have you got like cameras in my house or in my brain or something? Because it was really freaking me out how many things were either things that I had set up for myself.
Yeah, you were reading like the scripts to your friends. Be like, is he reading your journal?
Yeah, it was really strange.
He was reading your journal.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We got a lot.
You're welcome. It was the
Weird handwriting. Not bad.
flowery.
We're flowered.
Flowery. It was a combination of me, because I struggled to have a child myself. So I wanted to put that in before it had been brought up, just bubbling underneath, for nobody else's benefit, even if it had never come up, and why she was so immaculate and removed, but also the Rupert of it all, and the verbal abuse, which I think it's important to speak about. Myself and our beloved Juno used to talk about it a lot in the early days, and how much I wanted to lend my experiences of that, and to try and be economical with it, and knowing that it was largely a comedic piece, but that Rebecca was this line through it, ebbing flowing through her own strengths and weaknesses and trying to be what they all perceived her to be, you know? So it was that really weird marriage of things that I'd experienced and then things that I had just added as like little pepper, but all of them are in there. It's so odd.
Wow.
Yeah, just absolute kind of kismet, really.
And I don't love, but I mean, like, I think it's important to see someone as strong and together as Rebecca and realize that even she, you know, would put up with a guy like this at one point in her life. Yeah, no one is immune.
Yeah, and I'd never been given the privilege of even entertaining playing something that had someone that had such vulnerability and was battling. I think every day you see her at her desk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so sorry, we're gonna have to wrap, but if everyone can stay seated so that they can get out of here, and please join us at the Roosevelt across the way for the reception. Jason, I do wanna ask you, you got to, you know, end the show on your own terms, which has to be an amazing feeling. But
I
how
guess.
Yeah, any regrets? Because
No.
but how does it feel to say, you know, goodbye to Ted after living with him for so long?
Oh, I don't think say goodbye. I mean, it exists. That's one of the benefits of, like, yeah, the zeros and ones exist forever.
Yeah.
It's one of the neat things of the ensemble arts, like, especially when you get to record it. Like, I mean, I'm, you know, born, raised, forged in like live theater setting with ensemble work on improv and sketch. But yeah, this thing, you know, and hopefully someday on actual like physical media. But you know, but it does exist, zeros and ones. You know, someone will always be able to find it on Vimeo or. even if Apple TV Plus, you know, ceases to exist, and you'd be able to get in pill form probably in a couple of years. But I mean, I'm proud as hell. I'm proud as hell of what we made. I'm proud as hell of how we made it. I think it's a testament to the people that I got to work with and were forged by, both learning things that you should do and shouldn't do, and we've just, you know, did our darndest to like pass that on and carry that through this whole thing, and we talked about it the final day of season 3, that, you know, it's about taking it forward, take it to the next place, take it to your next project, your next, you know, dining room table, you know, your next, you know, your family's home, you know, whatever. It's like wherever you can be around other people, do it, you know, do it kindly and, you know, with curiosity and yeah, yeah, I don't know. I've got, that's it.
Can I ask, do your characters continue to live on in your mind? Like, for some reason the other day I was watching We're the Millers. It was on TV.
I've seen it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, fine. No regrets either.
But like, I wonder sometimes what those people are up to, if they're still living in their safe house.
Yeah, I'd be
you know,
curious too, yeah.
Yeah, do you think about like what, like I know how the whole love triangle between Healy and the guys work out.
Yeah, I mean, look,
mind.
I mean, for me, it's much like live theater. Like this show was especially the season 3 was asking the audience to be an active participant.
Yeah.
Some people want to do that. Some people don't. Some people want to judge. They don't want to be curious. They want to, you know. I'll never understand people that will, you know, go on and talk about something so brazenly that they, in my opinion, clearly don't understand. And I bless them for it. That's not their fault. They don't have imaginations, and they're not open to the experience of what it's like to have, you know, further one. But like, I know exactly how they all end. I hope every single person does, and I hope every single person, like, I'd love for every single person to have a different interpretation of all these characters and the 20 other people that you know we're trying to wrap up in that thing. Because it was left. All we wanted to do was leave a little green arrow next to everybody.
I love that.
Everybody's in better shape than they started. You know, like a good boy or Girl Scout at a campsite. We left it better than we found it. And if you don't see that in that show, then I don't know what show you were watching. I don't know what songs you were listening to.
Well, again, if you can stay seated, but we will see you across the street at the Roosevelt. Again, thank you for being a great audience. Thank you so much for being here.